Hey everybody, welcome back. I've not done a video in a little bit. Sorry, I've just been quite busy with a couple of things. I know a lot of things have been going on in the news lately in terms of film, and there's been a couple of films I missed, so I am going to be doing a review of some kind, hopefully this week, or this weekend, and hopefully it'll be out sometime on, I'm hoping for maybe Sunday or so. Don't hold me accountable for that, hopefully like Sunday or so. But this cannot wait. I literally have been talking about this all day. You guys have probably all been talking about it today, and that is of course the Disney Investor Conference that happened today. So, um, there is a shit ton of stuff to talk about today, and I am not going to talk about every single thing that went down there because it's just this video would be absolutely huge. I would just have just it'd be just too much to handle. And I would get just so much a headache. So I'm going to just talk about select things from the conference, particularly with the service itself. I think that's the part that I'm most interested in when I went into the conference, and of course talking about some related content pieces that are going to be on there, particularly the ones that caught my eye the most. The ones that I'm the most interested in, and also the ones that I'm interested to talk about the most. So, um, so without further ado, as I bang my chair onto my desk, let's get into it. So yeah, the Disney Investor Day conference happened today. Now, before I actually get into this, actually, you know what? Um, I'm going to save that thought I just had in my head and leave it for the very end because something interesting that I want to bring up to you guys that happened today and a couple of days ago. So, but anyways, let's get into our discussion. So yes, the Disney Investor Conference happened today, which is where they talk about the future of their company, particularly in this particular year, their streaming service Disney Plus, and how they're going to maneuver the new year, and of course the years to come as well, while presenting a bunch of content that is going to fund them and help them and support them for the next couple of years in terms of Lucasfilm, Marvel Studios, Pixar, Walt Disney Animation, you name it, anything within the Disney brand, anything that they are ready to show or slash announce, they can make these announcements at this conference. So it's a big, big conference. And again, I'm only going to talk about select things from the conference. I'm not going to talk about every single thing. So if you guys wanted me to talk about like a lot of the Disney Plus originals or some other things, I'm not really going to touch on them. Some of the stuff I've already touched on, like Pinocchio and the Cruella, Pinocchio being now a Disney Plus original. We kind of talked about it before on one of these Cinema Folks news bits before. But needless to say, a lot of the stuff that was announced in terms of content, I'm not super surprised by it, but there are some surprises that I was really happy to hear. But before we get into talking about the content, I want to talk about the service itself, Disney Plus. What is their new way of approaching 2021? And what are the new benefits to joining up to Disney Plus versus the other streaming services out there? What was basically the response going to be to HBO Max? And here's what they had as a response, as according to the notes that I had taken from the conference. So, first thing to note is that they have released their subscriber count as of this month, which is 86.8 million subscribers. That is their current count right now of paid subscribers. To put that in perspective, HBO Max's current, at least from the most recent number that I can generate, is 36.3 million. Yeah. So, um, Disney Plus clearly has a huge, huge following and has a huge, huge subscriber base, and it is going to continue to grow as they see it. They actually anticipate by the end of 2021 to hopefully have 200 million subscribers on their service. So it's going to be absolutely insane. And judging from the content that they are going to be providing on their service, I would not be surprised if they hit that number. But um, and guys might be thinking like, well, they're going to be appealing to a certain demographic. Not necessarily, because they are also going to be appealing to adult demographics now as well with this new platform that are going to be integrated within the Disney Plus service, which is called Star. Star, which will launch on February 2021, is going to be the introduction of mature content to Disney Plus, such as Fox properties to Disney Plus subscribers. So that means you get to see products like Deadpool 2, Logan, Die Hard. You'll be able to watch these classics or in these properties, these other Planet of the Apes, like Alien, which we'll discuss later. You'll be able to see all these classics and all of these R-rated materials finally within the Disney Plus brand, within the Disney Plus subscription service, and it will be also in terms of maturity. All you have to do is go to your settings and change the maturity, saying that yes, you're 18 and above, and as you usually go to the Disney Plus website, you see on the top that you have like all these icons of all the stuff you can go to, like the Star Wars, Marvel Studios, Lucasfilm. A new logo will pop up, which is Star, and if you click on Star, you get to go through that library as well. And once again, that's going to get launched on February 2021. So that's really interesting. And the part that I was really happy to hear from Disney's investor conference today was that select content will be released exclusively to Disney Plus. So the fear that I had with Disney Plus is gone. So they're not doing the HBO Max thing. They are going to go by film basis and select content that they believe can work through their Disney Plus service, like Pinocchio, for instance, or Peter Pan and Wendy, or a Hocus Pocus 2, a Disenchanted. These particular films that they announced, they believe can work within their streaming service and benefit their streaming service and have the capabilities to succeed within the budgets they possess. Pinocchio, I would say, is their one tentpole because of Tom Hanks and Robert Zemeckis. So I would say that's the only tentpole that they really have adding on to the service. The other ones are, I would say, fair enough. David Lowery's Peter Pan and Wendy, I would say is another one possibly, but Pinocchio is definitely considered the tentpole project that's on the Disney Plus originals in terms of features. So I'm very happy to see that they're not just pouring out all of their tentpoles and all their blockbusters and basically everything on Disney Plus, because the big mic drop of the night, in my opinion, is the price when they announce the price increase. Because of course, when you're going to be adding all this content, you're going to have to increase your price. And there were around the conference, I was hearing like $8.99, which I was thinking that's fair. At one point, I thought $9.99, and I thought that was kind of pushing it. After they talked about their content, they went talking about their finances. I watched a little bit of that before I signed off, and they had confirmed that by May of 2021, the price will increase to $7.99. So right now it's $6.99. It'll be $7.99, so only $1 difference for a slew of content. Again, to put it in perspective, HBO Max is $14.99. So yeah, it's we'll get to my takeaways in a second, but I think you can kind of tell which one of them in particular. But that is great. I'm really happy to hear that they're not going to be pushing for a double-digit price. They're going to stay in a marketing price that is very, very reasonable and extremely appealing, because everybody will look at that price and think that is I think it's the lowest, still the lowest, I believe, in terms of a streaming service for payment, but also the most appealing. Everybody will jump on board, and there's a reason why they expect 200 million, because with all the content that they announced and with the price increase, it's extremely appealing to people and to viewers. So that's great. I'm really happy that's going to be around that price range. And speaking of prices, let's talk about premium pricing for a quick second. Of course, my throat had to dry up while I was talking, so I've got some water here just in case I need to clear my throat again. But speaking of pricing, let's talk about premium pricing, because that was the other big thing that I was thinking about going into this this conference, which was, are they going to talk about Premier Access? Are they going to talk about premium pricing? And well, they did not, which is the one negative that I have from this conference. They did not talk about premium pricing, but they did talk about Premier Access for particular projects, which we will discuss later. But they did not discuss any fine details to what that Premier Access means. For those who don't remember, for those who need a little bit of a refresher, Mulan had Premier Access, and Mulan cost a $30 premium on top of the $6.99 per month. So you're basically paying like $36, $37 to watch Mulan, which is extremely unappealing for a lot of people. Especially when you consider the quality of the film and all those other things. I didn't hate Mulan as much as everybody else did. I thought it was a fine film. I definitely think it's one of the better live action remakes that they have done, but it's definitely not worth $30. So I'm curious to know what that Premier Access, if there even is Premier Access in the sense of what it was established to be. If it's changed, I hope that they address it, because they did not address it at all at the conference today. So that's the one negative and the one thing that I'm a little afraid of, which I'll discuss later on what I mean. But that is the one negative, is that they did not discuss Premier Access at all during this conference, especially during the finance during finance. They didn't talk about it at all during finance, at least to my knowledge. So that's pretty much my thoughts on the service parts of it. Now, in terms of content, there is just way too much to get through. Like I said, I already talked about a few of the Disney Plus originals that are going to be coming, but I mainly want to address like some of the highlights for me in terms of the content, because there is just like from television to film, like there's just some things that I'm really, really excited to see, and some things that are really curious. I'm really curious to see. But let's get through it. So I'm looking at the one right now, and I kind of alluded to it. The highlight to me by far and away in terms of content from the Disney Investor Conference was from FX, when they made the announcement of the Alien television series. Noah Hawley will be helming it, and Ridley Scott presumably is going to be producing it. I am so fucking excited for an Alien television show, especially hearing that it's going to be the first Aliens show or premise to be set on present-day Earth, which that has me a little concerned. But in terms of Alien, in terms of the franchise, it is perfect for television, and I'm extremely excited to see what they bring to this. Noah Hawley, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to look it up right now. I know he did Fargo, but I just want to make sure that he also did what I'm also thinking, just to make sure. Where are your credits, man? Because he also did Legion, which I have not seen yet, but I really want to make sure I see it. I've been wanting to see it for a while, so it is extremely exciting for me. I am very excited for the Alien television series. That is something that I'm very, very excited for, and that to me was the highlight. That was the one that I was extremely excited to hear. So yes, Alien television series, definitely for me the highlight. There's no question about it. Now let's move on to Pixar. There were two things from Pixar that I really liked. Obviously, in terms of the creative, a lot of the creative stuff that they're doing in Pixar, I am very appealed by all of it. And I'm also really, before I actually get into it, let me also talk about the Walt Disney Animation stuff for a second, because there were some stuff in there also that I actually found quite interesting. I can't remember the name. I'm looking for my phone. I actually have it listed out. I don't remember the name of it, like how you say it, but there was a regional filmmakers. I'm trying to remember what the name was. I think it was called Awaju. I think that's what the name of the show is. They talked about it for a little bit and showed some concept art for it. It basically is a a series revolving around African American culture, and it's deep in the future. That's what the Awaju means. It means the future. Very much has like a Black Panther vibe in terms of its visual style, in terms of the concept art that they put out. I like the premise. I like the idea of giving more representation to other cultures and allowing these other cultured filmmakers to show off and represent themselves in a particular fashion. So I'm very interested to see how that plays out. And it's the first in a new collaboration with this particular company. So I'm very interested to see what they do with it, and curious to see how the format will be. Will it be like hand drawn animation? Will it be CGI? Very curious to see how that's going to play out. And the premise I think is an interesting one to see. Um, and it's going to explore like racial undertones, culture, just relatively timely themes to say the least. So nothing like um, soft to say the least, and I'm very curious to see how that plays out. But in terms of Pixar, what I was talking about before, two things that really got my interest. Firstly, was Raya and the Last Dragon. The trailer I was not really that interested in. I thought it was okay. I found the animation to not be as great, but upon seeing the press conference, I have to say with the new footage that they had presented with it, actually think it worked a little bit better. Perhaps it's just where the camera is placed. Maybe that's just me, because I saw the trailer and I was like, it looks fine. I mean, I wasn't blown away by it, but the animation was pretty much my problem. It seemed very kid friendly. In terms of its animation, it didn't seem as involved as the other animations were before in Pixar. But I have to say, I'm very interested to see how this film plays out. Also, the other reason why I bring up Raya and the Last Dragon is that this will have premium access on it, and it will be a hybrid release. So it will be released on streaming and in theaters on March 5th, 2021. So, what does this mean for Raya and the Last Dragon? What does this mean? It means two things. One, nobody's going to go to the theater to watch Raya and the Last Dragon. They're clearly going to go to streaming. Secondly, what does this mean for this particular film when we say premiere access? Does it mean that there's a premium price involved? Does that mean that we have to hand an additional payment to watch the film? We don't know. I have to assume that there's reasons to believe it, and then there's reasons to not believe that they will do it. I'm not sure where I fall at the moment. Just after the conference, I'm not 100% sure. The fact that they didn't even mention it has me concerned, but I think that they've learned their mistake from Mulan. I think that's the only thing I could really say with confidence right now, is that they have learned their mistakes from Mulan. But to what extent did they learn from? Because they are still doing Premier Access. I wish they would define to us what Premier Access means now for them. Does it still mean additional payment? Does it still mean this and that? Or is it just a name to add exclusivity, making it feel more precious for the Disney Plus service? What does it mean? We don't know yet. So that's Raya and the Last Dragon. And then the Pixar project that actually narratively I'm quite interested to see is Lightyear, which tells the origins of the original Buzz Lightyear that inspires the toy. So obviously we've seen the toy played by Tim Allen throughout the Toy Story franchise, but now we're actually going to be seeing the actual astronaut that the toy Buzz Lightyear is inspired from, which is of course a actual within the Toy Story world we're speaking about, not the world that we live in, but within the world of Toy Story, there was an actual person named Buzz Lightyear, an astronaut named Buzz Lightyear. This is what that film is about. We're going to watch the film about the original Buzz Lightyear, and instead of it being voiced by Tim Allen, it will actually be voiced by Chris Evans. Curious. I was a little thrown off when I heard that. I was like, okay, because I think everyone was expecting Tim Allen's name to pop up, but no, Chris Evans. So it'll be interesting to see what he brings to it. Is slated to come out on June 17th, 2022. And I think that overall, narratively, this is the one that I was the most interested in. I think that there's an interesting appeal to it. Turning Red was also interesting. as well as Luca. I mean, all of them have interesting ideas at play, but I think Lightyear had an interesting premise for me because of due to that science fiction elements to it. I also found the idea of really, I mean, it's not a prequel or anything like that. It's very much its own entity, disguising itself as in a familiar face, if that makes any sense. And I like that idea for Lightyear. It's not anything about, the toy Buzz Lightyear or anything like that. We're not going to see the actual toy, I assume, of Buzz Lightyear. Um, it's going to be about this particular person. And I like that they're distinguishing it through the voice as well, with Chris Evans being this, and then Tim Allen being another thing. So, so yeah, Lightyear really got my interest. I'm pretty excited to see what they do with that. Now, let's move on to the two big granddaddies, which was Lucasfilm and Marvel Studios. So I'm not going to touch on the shows for Lucasfilm because there's just too many shows to talk about. Obviously, I'm excited for The Mandalorian. I've just watched the new episode just now. I was very happy with it. I'm very excited to see a third season. Obi-Wan Kenobi, I'm really excited to see. Really happy to hear that Hayden Christensen's returning to play Darth Vader, so that's really fun. But in terms of everything else, I mean, I'm interested. I don't know a lot about those characters, so I can't really tell you with confidence how I feel about them. But in terms of the feature films, I can give you my feelings on those. So, which is this? So, in terms of the Lucasfilm features, not just the Star Wars stuff, but we are going to start with the Star Wars stuff. Which is this? So, we have learned what the next Star Wars film will be. So the next Star Wars film that we will be seeing in theaters, supposedly, we'll see how that is, will be a film called Rogue Squadron. And it will be directed by none other than Patty Jenkins. So she is set to direct the film, and as the film alludes to, it will be about squadron pilots. And I think this is an interesting direction to take the Star Wars film franchise. I think it's an interesting idea. I think it also shows that Disney is not confident yet to start a new trilogy, or maybe the Squadrons maybe represents a new trilogy. Who knows? But it just shows that because this came out of nowhere. I mean, we knew about other projects, like the other announcement that they made with Star Wars films is that Taika Waititi is still writing his new Star Wars film. Presumably, that's going to probably follow up Rogue Squadron. Which also to state, Rogue Squadron will be released on Christmas 2023. And Taika Waititi's film is still up in the air. He's still writing it, but presumably that's the next film after Rogue Squadron. But it does show that Disney's, after The Rise of Skywalker, that they are pretty much done with the trilogies for now. They're done with doing trilogies. They're going to move forth with doing standalone projects within also doing standalone shows. And I think this is a good direction to take the franchise right now. Do standalone stuff. They are all in on the shows right now for Star Wars. I mean, shit. Let me listen. I won't list the names, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Star Wars shows. That is insane. 7 Star Wars shows in development right now. Not even including like the droid one that they have in development. And the other ones are no, they have 10 Star Wars shows. What am I talking about? They have 10 Star Wars shows in development. They are all about televised content for Star Wars right now, as well as Marvel Studios once we get into that front. But they are all in terms of Lucasfilm for the televised network for the future of Star Wars. And for their films, they are focusing on, again, standalone stories. So nothing trilogy based for now. We don't know anything about the Rian Johnson trilogy yet, or I think someone else was doing a trilogy, and then the Game of Thrones writers were doing it, but then they fell out of it for a Netflix deal, so that doesn't really count. But basically, they are not about doing trilogies or series of like a series of films anytime soon right now. They're just looking to do standalone pieces for the future, and I think that that's the best move to make. Speaking of series films, though, the other thing involved with Lucasfilm is, of course, Indiana Jones. So we all know that Indiana Jones 5 has been in development for a long time. Pretty much been in development hell for a long time because this production has been quite interesting. Of course, we all knew that Steven Spielberg was going to be directing Indiana Jones 5, and then he fell out um, due to wanting to give it to a new person. Basically, he didn't like the idea that the people were going with, and he didn't feel like he wanted to do a fifth Indiana Jones film, so he fell out of it. Um, that this will be the last film of the series. That's what Kathleen Kennedy confirmed at the conference, that this will be the last film in the series. Harrison Ford, of course, is coming back to play Indiana Jones, and supposedly they are going to start shooting in late spring of 2021, and it will supposedly be released in July 2022. This project has been troubling, so I don't know if any of that information is going to stay legitimate. Who knows? Um, we do need to get that film filming though. We want to keep Harrison Ford because, not to disparage him or anything like that, but Harrison Ford is not a young guy. So if we want to do a new Indiana Jones film proper, I mean it's not proper. I mean we don't have Steven Spielberg at the helm, but if we want to do a new Indiana Jones film with Harrison Ford, we better do it sooner than later. So hopefully they are fast tracking this and that they are um, getting in development soon, or at least getting ready to roll cameras um, by that particular point. So, um, but I'm trying to think about Indiana Jones. I mean, I love Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is my favorite film franchise, if you guys don't know. So I actually did not mind Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It's not as bad as people make it out to be. It really isn't. It definitely is disappointing, but it is not as bad as some people make it out to be. People think it's like one of the worst films ever made. It's not. It's just not as well helmed as the other three are, but it has its moments. So I'm curious to see how James Mangold does with helming this Indiana Jones film and how he wraps it up, since now this being the last film of the series. And of course, excited to see Harrison Ford playing Indiana Jones once more for one last time. So. Um, Now, of course, the last bit that we will talk about today is, of course, Marvel Studios. They released so many things today in terms of shows. Once again, they are all in with their televised content. 10 Marvel shows with a couple of new ones that were announced. Again, I'm not going to touch on the shows. I have an interest for them, but I'm just not going to talk about them as much. Because to be frank, I mean, there are some good stuff on there. I mean, just to name one, I'm particularly excited for the Moon Knight show. That's something that I'm particularly interested in in their interest in exploring dissociative identity disorder. I think that that's an interesting idea, and just that type of premise, and just again, dissociative identity disorder, just the idea of diving into disorders and learning a lot more about the human psyche. I think that that's an interesting exploration and a new direction for the MCU that I think is extremely benefiting. So I'm very curious about that show, as well as Loki. I think the trailer was fun. I really like the tone of Loki, so I'm very curious to see how that show plays out. But in terms of the films, there are two films that I want to talk about in particular. We heard about Ant-Man 3, obviously, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and Blade is apparently looking to move forward, Thor 4, Captain Marvel 2, but I want to touch on two other films that they talked about, one of which is Black Panther 2. Of course, we all know that unfortunately Chadwick Boseman had tragically passed away, um, and it left up to a lot of questions of what was going to happen to T'Challa in the film. A lot of people thought he might be recasted, and Marvel Studios had come out today and confirmed that T'Challa will not be recasted in the film. Instead, they are looking to explore other characters that are already established instead as focus. So more than likely, the rumors that Letitia Wright, Letitia Wright Shuri, she might be the new Black Panther. Who knows? I am all game for that if that is the case. But Ryan Coogler, as of right now, is still writing the story. He is still looking to see where the story is going to go and what they're planning out for this new film, and of course how to honor Chadwick Boseman proper. And it is supposedly has a release date of July 8th, 2022. I'm extremely excited to see Black Panther 2. I mean, even though admittedly I was not the hugest fan of Black Panther, the shining diamond in that film was Chadwick Boseman. He brought one of the best performances, I would say, in the MCU and in general for comic book films. I think his performance is really strong. And I think, and I'm not just saying that because he's now passed. I really do mean that. I really think that he was the strength to that film and really what kept that film moving for me, because of his commitment to the role and what he brought to it. So that's Black Panther 2. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, which we knew was coming, I mean, we knew this film was coming, but they just now has decided to make it official and make an announcement, and that is Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four is finally coming. They didn't reveal anything cast-wise, but they did reveal that Jon Watts will be directing the film. Jon Watts, if you guys don't know, has directed the MCU Spider-Man trilogy, as he is also directing the upcoming Spider-Man 3, which has gotten a lot of news on recently with like Doc Ock coming back and some rumors speculating about Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, which at this point I would say is fairly legitimate. I mean, if you have Doc Ock in the film and you have Electro, and if they are going to be played by the same actors and be playing the same roles, I mean, it's almost a matter of time until they say Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are back. I mean, it's inevitable, I think, at this point. Many months before, I would have said that's kind of a far stretch. But now with these announcements coming out, it seems much more legitimate that they are going to be a part of the film in some capacity, whether it be in cameos or full roles, who knows. More than likely cameos, but even then, that still would be satisfying for me. As long as they benefit the story as well. You know, they're not just throwaways, they're just there to just be there. As long as they benefit the story as well, that would be happy for me all around. You know, I just don't like seeing characters just getting thrown in there for no reason. So, but bringing it back to Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four has had an interesting run in terms of films. I mean, 2015 film was horrible. I'll just put it lightly. I mean, it was lightly. It was horrible. It was bad. It was not a great film. I remember watching it, and it was a pretty empty theater, and my friends were pretty bored. I was pretty bored, and more or less disappointed by how just lazy the film was. And I'm happy to see that they're going to be taking another crack at it, at least now under the helm of Marvel Studios. And I'm curious to see what Jon Watts brings to it. And curious to see, is this like a hint that the Fantastic Four will probably be in Spider-Man 3 because, you know, the same director now coming over to do Fantastic Four? Or is it that just that Jon Watts is a favorite of Kevin Feige's and he just wants to allow him to do something? Or Jon Watts maybe has a vision to, maybe he wanted to do a Fantastic Four movie as the first thing he came to Marvel Studios for, but they gave him Spider-Man, and now with the success of Spider-Man, he was now given the chance to do Fantastic Four. Not sure what the behind the scenes is, but it seems like, you know, there's clearly like a reason as to why Jon Watts was picked besides passion. There's other reasons. I feel like there's a connection with Spider-Man 3 with that. Who knows? But, okay, now to close it off, there were 4 takeaways that I took away from this conference. 4 big takeaways. One of them I had kind of already addressed, which was Premier Access. Premier Access could kill Disney Plus appeal for me, and for a lot of other people. And for a reason is because if it's implemented Premier Access with Premier pricing, that could turn off a lot of viewers if they have to pay additional charges to watch a film. That could really turn off a viewer. However, I argue that premium pricing, while a good safeguard, because it's a good safeguard, it has to be met with a certain understanding and appeal if used. So you have to appeal to your viewer as much as possible and with a reasonable price. Like I said, $5 is okay. $5 is fine. Or hell, I mean, if it's gonna be $7.99 come March, I would say like $2, $2 or $3, or not $2 or $3. What am I talking about? Like $7, I would say that's fine. Like $5 to $7, I would say that's fair if you're going to add a premium price. And again, you add in the content and the features that appeal to a viewer to pay for such price. Add in a 4K resolution, add in the bonus features, add in documentaries, Q&As, all the stuff that Mulan did not have at launch for Disney Plus and elsewhere at other streaming services should not be the case here. There should be plenty of additional content if you're going to be paying for an additional payment. If you're paying an additional payment. But if it's not used, it's more positive towards the service. I mean, people will still be coming to the service regardless, because to go to my second point, Disney Plus is the clear leader of the streaming wars right now. I mean, look at all the stuff that they have, from the content that they have providing, to the wider range of demographic appeal that they're now doing with Star, with now adding in much more mature content, with the subscriber count being at like 86.8 million versus HBO Max's 36.3 million, and to top it all off, it's $7.99 per month as of when it hits on March 2021 with the price increase. Disney Plus has all the advantages right now, absolutely all the advantages. And now there's a reason why I brought up HBO Max. This conference also shows how bad of a deal HBO Max made, or HBO Max / WB had made, because Disney didn't respond the way many people thought they would, particularly WB. Everyone thought that Disney Plus was gonna come out here and announce a bunch of theatrical releases. We're gonna have a hybrid style of release, just like WB did. They thought that they were going to basically say bye to the movie theaters and abandon them in a sense, like WB did. And they didn't. They didn't, because if we get to my last point, and I think the most important point to make, Disney still has faith in the theatrical experience. If they didn't, Black Widow would be on Disney Plus right now. If they didn't, many other tentpoles would be on Disney Plus right now, like Cruella, Jungle Cruise, many other MCU films. But then again, this is a temporal decision. So, they may not have a choice come a few months from now, if theaters are still alive, because the theaters are practically dead by 2021. Disney then at that point has no choice but to then put them on streaming, because as I just said a little earlier ago, Black Widow will not be on Disney Plus. It will not be a streaming exclusive. It's still exclusively to theaters. So with that announcement, it shows the faith that Disney has still in the theatrical experience, and the hope that they will be returning to theaters very, very soon. Which brings me now to the thing that I was going to talk about earlier, because I didn't know if I wanted to talk about it yet, but I feel like I can talk about it now. I actually had the chance to talk to 2 senators, because as you guys all know, I had put in my 2 cents for the #SaveYourCinema campaign through the NATO organization, and I did a big video involving why I thought the WB deal was with HBO Max, I thought was in many ways disrespectful, destructive, and many, many other things. I had sent out a letter to Congress, and apparently 2 senators, Mike Levin and Dianne Feinstein, both responded to my letter, and it wasn't like an automatic message. It was an actual legit letter from both of them, and I just wanted to say thank you. It's very, very gracious that you guys sent me a letter, and decided to just respond to my little statement. But basically, the government is doing what they can do to support finance for the theatrical experience. They are looking to bring up these issues to Congress whenever they make more congressional voting and all that stuff. So they are they're not abandoning movie theaters. They're not, but they have to navigate the flow of money and where it goes towards other pressing matters like hospitals and restaurants, all these other places that I address in the letter that I understand are more important, and if it came down to it, put the money towards a hospital than a theater, because the hospital mean much more to society than a movie theater does. But I had talked to Congress through my letter and stated that I believe that the theatrical experience holds a lot therapeutically that I think a lot of people don't address. There's a mental side to going to a movie theater. It's not just for the experience. It's about leaving life behind for a little bit and having that moment of happiness in a theater, whether you're watching something that's is going to be bad or whether it's going to be good. The experience of sitting down in a theater is relaxing and calming, and it turns your brain off and turns life off for a second and lets you just explore some adventure of some kind, whether that being a horror film, whether that being a drama, whether that being a comic movie, whether that being the latest in the Star Wars franchise, going to a galaxy far, far away. The experience of just getting transported for a few hours helps someone process information and help someone calm down for a moment and relax and put them in a very, very peaceful state of mind for a little bit of time. And I believe a lot of people nowadays, especially with the COVID happening right now, much more pressing, and the cases rising higher and higher, I think that people need that calming presence, need these calming atmospheres, and the theatrical experience is a place for that. I know that it can be a bit of a hassle. I know I've experienced I've had theatrical experiences that have been compromised, to say the least. I know a lot of people have those concerns, but I also believe that if the theaters do their jobs in cleaning up the auditoriums, managing the auditoriums, maybe doing like temperature checks before we walk into the theaters, taking extreme precautions and doing what they need to do to make sure that the experience, of course, they're going to have to limit their numbers and everything, and they're going to have to take a hit financially in some capacity or another. But as long as they do what they have to do, not what they want to do, but what they have to do to sustain a living, to keep the theatrical experience still thriving, and if they meet those regards, I don't see why they cannot get the financial support that they need, because from my theatrical experience when I came back in July, when I saw Tenet, everything that I just said, they did. They would check you, they would they would separate the seatings, they would lower the capacity much lower. It wouldn't be a full capacity. It would probably be less than half. So, and again, it's understandable right now because of where proper finances need to go to hospitals and stuff, but we do have to understand our entertainment venues and what they mean to our society. We can't just abandon them. And Congress is doing what they can do, but at least these two senators are, and I'm happy that they were at least took some time out of their day to respond to my message. So thank you so much for that. But overall, guys, I mean, the Disney Investor Conference was huge. It was huge, and it made it clear that Disney Plus is the clear winner. It's the clear winner right now. It's the clear leader. They have all the benefits, and I think HBO Max has some adjustments to do. I really think that the HBO Max is going to make some announcements in the near future, whether that be something about their price rate, whether that be about some of the content that they have on there. Clearly HBO Max is going to have some announcements, and we're going to talk more about HBO Max very, very soon, because there are some bits about the drama that's unfolding that I do want to discuss further. But I did want to talk about this investor conference right now because I just could not wait. So that's my impressions on the conference. I think the conference overall was a win. I really think it was a win. The only downside, as I said, is that they did not talk about Premier Access / premium pricing. I hope they address it in the future somewhere, and what that means for some content, particularly in Raya and the Last Dragon. What does that mean? Does that mean additional pricing, or additional payment, or does it mean it's just like a fancy little tag for that product? What does it mean? So hopefully we get an answer soon. But that's pretty much my thoughts on the conference. So you guys let me know your thoughts on the conference. What were some of the big announcements that just shocked you? What What are some hopes that you have for the service, and how do you think HBO Max is going to respond to this? How do you think WB is going to respond to this conference? Do you think they're going to meet it with lower pricing on their monthly subscription rate? Do you think they're going to add more products to it? What do you believe that HBO Max's response is going to be? Let me know in the comment section below. And that's pretty much it for this video. I never know how to sign these videos off. I just leave, I guess. But as you can tell, I'm getting kind of tired. It's very, very late. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. Yes, so I will talk more about this conference once I'm not as tired and I can portray my thoughts a little bit more cohesively. But yeah, let me know your thoughts about the conference. We'll definitely talk more about this. There's definitely more stuff that's going to come out about it. And I will talk to you guys later. I'll talk to you guys later. I also have a review, as I said, hopefully on Sunday. I don't know what review it will be. Probably a Mon Night, I think that's how it is, called the Saoirse Ronan and Kate Winslet film. I'll hopefully get a review out there on Sunday. If not, I'll replace that review with talking about the HBO Max, more of the drama that's been unfolding, and further talking about the Disney Investor Conference if more news comes out. So, but that's it for this video and about my recap and thoughts. And like I said, just tell me your guys' thoughts about the conference, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.